Spike Lee's got a new movie coming out. It's called Chi-Raq. It is a modern retelling of the Greek story Lysistrata. It takes place in modern-day Chicago, and it's got Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Cannon, John Cusack, Dave Chappelle, just to name a few people. And it is basically about a bunch of these women who are romantically involved with these gang members in Chicago, and they decide that in order to stop them from fighting, they're all going to sort of abstain from sex. They're not going to give up anything to them in hopes that they will stop fighting, pay more attention to them, and hopefully that sex is the most powerful weapon they can use. So, like I said before, it's based on Lysistrata. Spike Lee's updating it, making it in Chicago, which is why it's called Chi-Raq, and instead of being at wartime, making it in Chicago, which is obviously not the best non-violent place in the world right now. I think the trailer looks great. It's very interesting. I'm a little concerned about Nick Cannon playing some gangbanger, but if it's supposed to be like satire, kind of like a little lighter, I think it might work pretty well. A couple rappers have actually come out and they're not really a fan of the trailer, what they've seen so far. Mostly Chicago rappers, which, I mean, it makes sense that if this is their home and they're seeing this, like, all this, like, violence and gang warfare happening, you don't want it to sort of be portrayed as like lighter or like a backdrop to something that's supposed to be kind of a satire or comedy. So Rhymefest basically went online and said this looks terrible. Like, I don't want to see this. A couple other rappers, Lil Bibby and others were saying like this looks like a spoof or a parody. They didn't seem that impressed by it. Now I personally am probably going to go see this movie. I think it looks great. Spike Lee is someone who, despite I guess people saying that like he's from New York, he shouldn't be talking on Chicago, I think that he has shown that he, as a filmmaker, is able to tell any type of story he wants, and he does it with, you know, he does it with a purpose and like with a good message and vision. So I think the fact that he's not from Chicago shouldn't deter people from seeing this movie. I get where the rappers are coming from in terms of, look, this is the life we live. This is completely something that we take very seriously and shouldn't be played as a joke. For example, if I personally feel that if it had been flipped around and took place not in Chicago, but in Baltimore during the time of the Baltimore riots, then it's like, all right, that was like a very serious time. It's not something that you should really play for laughs or as light as it should be. It's like a little more dark than that. But going back to what I said before, Spike Lee is someone who, I mean, he's not like making airplane movies. He is grounded in drama. So I gotta believe that as light as it may seem, there's going to be like some real issues, and he's not really going to play it as a complete joke. But we can't really fully know until we see it. But I'm looking forward to it. So Halloween just happened. Ryan Reynolds, star of the upcoming movie Deadpool, took advantage of it. They filmed this like little promotional video at Halloween where Ryan Reynolds dressed up as Deadpool and sort of was rounding out his own team of superheroes. They were all little kids on a playground, all dressed up as different X-Men, and he ends up trying to like form a superhero team. But in classic Deadpool fashion, he ends up insulting the kids, cursing, just being a real smart ass about it. And the video went viral. It was very funny. And it reminded me a lot of the SNL sketch with Peyton Manning, United Way, where Peyton Manning's playing football with kids, and he's just like harassing them and yelling at them and just not really caring about profanity at all. So Ryan Reynolds kind of got to show, I'm not sure if this was kind of off the cuff or scripted. There were certain parts like where the kid said stuff that seems like it could have been scripted. It was still funny. But I got the impression that Ryan Reynolds kind of just went off the cuff and kind of said his own thing and was ragging on these kids. And it just makes me more excited for the Deadpool movie because it's like, this is going to be perfect. So far, they're setting everything up to be really good. I know a lot of people are excited about it. So I think this is just another great promotion for the Deadpool movie. Movie I saw this week was Spectre, the new James Bond movie. It takes place after Skyfall, so James Bond is now trying to sort of move on from those events, and he's trying to kind of on his own uncover this secret organization, Spectre, and along the way he finds out secrets involved in his past and he's got to save the day again. This movie is interesting because I remember when Daniel Craig took over in the 007 franchise, the big deal was made was that they're making James Bond gritty. It's making it realistic. This is like how he's not even really so much a spy as he is an assassin, and it's kind of the equivalent to the Nolan Batman movies. Like Batman Begins was gritty, realistic. What would happen if you took a real life man and put him in this situation with this set of skills? And that's kind of how Casino Royale was. And I feel throughout the Batman series and the James Bond series, they end up kind of reverting back to, respectively, Batman and James Bond movies. So with Spectre, as I'm watching this movie, it was good, but it wasn't the gritty James Bond movies that Daniel Craig and everyone involved kind of prides himself on. It was a James Bond movie. Maybe not as silly as the other ones, but there were definitely some James Bond type tropes where you're like, oh, okay, this isn't really super realistic anymore. You have to now get out of that mindset of being, is this a realistic movie? No, this is just a fun James Bond movie. Go into it thinking that. So the direction was great. The action was incredible. The action I thought was so good, especially the first scene. The first scene in Mexico City draws you right in, and I think that alone is what I was kind of in between what to give this. I didn't think it was quite a 1 out of 3 or a 2 out of 3, so I was right in the middle. So I think that the action scenes really put it over the top. So I give this movie 2 ticket stubs out of 3. I know it's been getting mixed reviews, but I think it's definitely a lot of fun. It's really long. It's super, super long, so it gets boring at times, a little bloated near the end. All that aside, despite all its flaws, I still found it very enjoyable and worth your time and money. So 2 ticket stubs out of 3. Thank you so much for watching Hip Hop and Movie News. As always, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave feedback below, let us know what you think, and keep sending in those 15-second film reenactments. This week it comes from our old friend GT Deterring. See you guys next time.
I'm not Holly. I'm not Lula May either. I don't know who I am. I'm like Cat here. We're a couple of no-name slobs. We belong to nobody, and nobody belongs to us. We don't even belong to each other.